for a long, long time, and you've been kicking ass for a long time, and you've been putting up points on the scoreboard at the Olympia for a long time. But now you finally landed a championship. And what's that like, man? After all these years to finally win the Olympia?
Well, it's kind of how it started. Started off, you kind of dream to accomplish such a thing, and it's just an overwhelming experience when it actually you're able to accomplish one of your biggest goals of your career, man. It's just definitely overwhelming. I don't really know. I'm kind of in between consciousness right now, reality and and this
Yeah.
dream state right now. Jay Cutler said it may take at least a week to hit me or so
Mm.
before I actually I'm able to take it all in, the reality of it all in. So,
What do you think the biggest difference is? Like, why this year? I think maybe the best you placed is like top five before, or you've been in the
right.
top six, seven, eight. What? How are you able to come out on top this year?
Well, it was kind of just like the I knew when I got top five last year, I had automatic requalification. So me and my coach, we started to think about it as far as what was the goal for the 2019 season. So we kind of mapped it out. If we come in and win the Arnold, then we'll set the stage for the Olympia and kind of create the hype and the motivation leading into that show to be I guess you call it one of the front runners. And I knew in my heart that I could beat Sean. So I kind of once I solidified that opportunity at the Arnold and was able to get the win, I knew coming into the Olympia I'd be able to win. And quite honestly, Sean, of course, wasn't in this event this year because of his situation, but quite honestly, I just came in the Olympia with nothing but confidence when it came to being able to take this title.
Was there anything specific with like diet or anything specific with a type of cardio or training that you were doing that was different than in the past?
Well, I think right now, being 36 years old, my body's kind of in its prime, and we were able to just take advantage of that. As my body from the Arnold prep was much different from the Olympia prep, so it was a much different preparation, even from those two contests, which are not that far apart. I just think the maturity process allowed me to put in more work, do more cardio, eat less calories, less carbohydrates, and still maintain a good standard of muscle mass to come in the way we needed. So that process and the way my body was performing allowed me to just come into this show even more improved than the Arnold. So I was able to take the win because I think the judges noticed that uh, over 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 most of the other aspects of who's improving, who's actually getting better from show to show.
Brandon, you've been competing for like 16 years now. And when a lot of athletes look at that, they wonder like, how are you able to, I guess, just maintain the fire from when you started? What allows you to do that?
Well, you kind of in life you have to find purpose in things to really have the motivation to go after them, no matter what the circumstances are. And I feel like in '06 when I saw Ronnie Coleman lose the title, it was what I thought was impossible. Lost to
Mm.
Cutler, and he got defeated. And from that point on, it's like a purpose spark in me as far as what I wanted to accomplish in bodybuilding. I started taking it seriously. And once that impossible thing happened in my mind, I was thinking, okay, now I'm going after this. And despite any losses and anything that happened, I was able to stay focused on my mission no matter what, and continue to push and strive to be the best I can be no matter what my circumstances are. Because I felt like I had purpose in the sport. I felt like I could get to this mountaintop no matter what was happening. Just as long as I put in the work, as long as I was consistent as possible, I would eventually find the right formula to do it.
What now?
What now?
Yeah.
Well, first things first, back to normal life, enjoying the family,
Right.
and then I'm doing some touring, of course, being an ambassador to sport, and scheduled already full post Olympia, and then uh, trying to get a title uh, for next year. So first things first, get back to the roots, get reprogrammed,
Mm.
readjusted to being a dad and a husband, and then back to work after.
Not a lot of people know this, but you've been a big supporter of my brand for many, many years, and you were a big supporter in the very beginning. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate it, and then how proud I am of you to see you, pull out this victory is really cool and super motivating and inspiring to us over here at Super Training Gym.
Well, I appreciate you guys' support as always, man. And you're doing big things, and man, you're definitely a great motivator in my life to see the things that you're doing and accomplishing in the industry. And you guys keep it up, man. I wish you guys the best. Okay.
Hey, good luck at your seminar today. Thank you so much for your time, champ. Take care.
All right, brother. Thank you.
Cool.
Well, that didn't suck.
That didn't suck at all.
Yeah,
That was live and everything too.
that was crazy. we just got on the phone with the champ.
That's so. Wait, when was he doing stuff with you guys?
I don't know, man. That guy's been on my dick for a long time. I'm like, yo, Brandon, just relax, man. No, I knew him through BSN, through my good friend Eric Hart, who now does stuff with Redcon and does stuff with Brian Shaw. And Brandon was just so like nice right off the bat. He was just like, hey, yeah, I'll try some of the products out. And then he was trying out the slingshot when a lot of other bodybuilders at the time were very resistant to it. He was like, shit, I'll try it out. He's like, my shoulders are trashed, And so he tried it out, and he was like, yeah, I used it on a hammer strength machine, and I used it on this, and he used it on a bunch of stuff that I never even intended for it to be used on. Mm-hmm. He's like, it works great, man. He's like, I wear it all the time. And he's wearing like the wrist wraps and all different kinds of stuff. And then we just lost touch over the last few years. I haven't reached out to him. He hasn't reached out to me in a while. And I've been kind of following along and seeing, where he's been, what he's been up to, and seeing him, make some progress. But to see him win the Olympia, I'll be totally honest, came out of left field for me because, first of all, I thought he was a little bit older because he's been in the sport for so long.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned like 17 years.
16, yeah.
16 years. And so, 5 to 8 years ago, when I was getting to know him, I probably figured maybe he was more on the downside of his career, but the last 2-3 years have been really good for him. And this year at the Olympia, he showed up like bigger than ever. What's that about?
It's crazy. I don't get especially like him. And then when you look at other guys, I think the oldest guy that's competing is Dexter Jackson. They just continue to get better. I think there's something about the way he trains.
You said Dexter's 49, right?
49.
What?
So he might
Come
be
on,
50
Dexter
this year.
Jackson. Let up on us, dude.
And he got fifth. You got fourth or fifth, And that's just absolutely crazy. So I do wonder about this win, though, because a lot of the internet's talking. And they're like, oh, he didn't beat Phil or something, like, that type of stuff. So I wonder, like, if he's thinking about that at all, or if that weighs on his mind. But hey, he came in and he killed it. So
he's got to feel good about it. It's got to give him confidence, for next year as well. Because those other guys probably will be there.
Oh yeah.
And then also, like, let's say Phil is there. Let's say Brent Roden was there. People are still going to complain about something, though. They're going to be like, he wasn't as good as last year. Brandon wouldn't have won last year. Like, people suck, so it doesn't matter.
Or the sports changed, and it's like they got an excuse for everything. Oh, they want the guys to be smaller now, or he would have never won if it wasn't this way. They're going to always have an excuse to throw in there. The exciting thing is that it kind of sounds like the title is a little bit more up for grabs than it was years ago, when you saw Ronnie Coleman, take his crown and really hold on to it. And then Jay Cutler got 4 championships as well. And a lot of people are going back and forth. You had a long era with kind of Arnold or Lee Haney, going back to Lee Haney.
Yeah.
And then Arnold. And then Dorian Yates won it several times as well. And it's like, you had people kind of holding the title and they couldn't be beat. And now it seems like, I guess the last 3 Olympias, there's been 3 different champions. Is that right?
It was Brandon, Sean, but I think the year before was Phil, right?
Yeah. So that
technically
3. 3 different ones over the last 3 years, and obviously Phil had it for many years before that. What he won 6, I think total, right?
Yeah. So, and it was interesting because I think it might have been Jay Cutler when he had mentioned on the podcast here that there was like 13 champions. He's like, He's like, who knows? I might not see another 13 by time, my time is up. And it's like, actually, we might see like, the next 13 might be different. Who knows?
That's true.
It makes it, my opinion, makes it way more exciting. Even though watching someone like Phil just totally dominate, like that's cool too. But like, I mean, why does everybody hate the Patriots? You know what I mean? Like, so how exciting is it when like, oh shit, who is going to win this year?
Everybody hates the Patriots because they cheat. They deflate the ball, right? I mean, come on.
They cheat, they win, and then nobody cares.
No, I know. I hate the Patriots because I'm a Jets fan. But cool. I love the Patriots. Honestly, I love watching greatness of any kind. I had an opportunity to. This is like totally unrelated, but I had an opportunity to see Jerry Seinfeld years ago. I've had opportunity to see Joe Rogan. Like when you get to see a professional, when I was a kid, my dad took me to a New York Knicks game, and they played the Chicago Bulls. I got to see Michael Jordan. I got to see Charles Barkley play at one point as well, and seeing Patrick Ewing and Charles Barkley and Michael Jordan, and just it doesn't matter what the high level is. It could be high level anything, and I'm going to be. Well, maybe not anything, but I'm going to be pretty pumped about it. I'm going to be pretty excited. I got to see Bones Jones fight in person. That was crazy. Went down to L.A. And got to see him fight about 6 or 8 months ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that was just – it was he fought Alexander Gustafsson, and he was just Bones Jones. He was just dominant, and it was amazing. When you were watching greatness like that, I've never watched a bodybuilding show like that before, so I've never seen those guys perform that way. But I had the opportunity to actually work out with Phil Heath, and luckily he was in a talking mode, so I didn't get stomped on too bad.
Yeah.
But that was even cool because everything was different. Everything was a little bit different. Every movement, had a different thing to it, a little different twist or different rules with rest periods for certain times of the year. I mean, he had like a little recipe for everything. It was amazing.
When working out with like Phil, because you talked about working out with Branch yesterday, do these guys tend to work out in similar fashions? Like, I mean, it's bodybuilding, but are they doing some of the same stuff, same ideas?
Yeah, they're moving, and even working out with Stan Efforting. They're going. Like when it's time to go, they're really going. With Phil, it was a little bit more. It was a little bit more lax because, like I said, we kind of got in a talking mode, and we had a camera there, and he was actually really gracious. I was so shocked, and he was so gracious with his time. You hear different things from people, right? And I heard bad things from people, to be honest, and I had nothing but a great interaction with him, and maybe that's because we have similar friends and things like that. But yeah, he was talking a lot in between sets, but the intent is there. These guys are there to get after it. Branch Warren, I think, maybe brought an intensity to bodybuilding that is probably fairly rare.
Yeah.
And I think that's his mindset. And I think that's something that he adopted and he just kept. And he was like, this is the way I'm always going to have to do it. And he would kind of almost be like miserable. And he would actually train with he trained a lot with Dexter Jackson. They would train a lot together. And they both had a kind of similar mindset. Just you got to go as hard as possible. Where Phil Heath, I don't know what it's like when he's in full, Olympia mode. I never trained with him for that, but just in my perspective of things and from what I know, it's like I think that Branch Warren was pretty rare, and maybe a Dorian Yates was pretty rare, and even like they're just different though, right? Like different intensities in different ways.
Yeah.
And you see that across the board in every sport. I mean, we were talking the other day about how Michael Jordan punched one of his other players. We talked about how fiery and crazy Kobe Bryant was.
Yeah.
And then there's also like Brett Favre, right? Brett Favre was great, but Brett Favre seemed like he would be like fun. It'd be fun to be on Brett. What seems like it, just the perception of it seems like it'd be really fun to be on Brett Favre's team. Like you might kick some ass and win some games, and then go out to a bar and get into a bar brawl or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just seems like a more relaxed thing. So each guy's got their own mentality to it.
Yeah. You know what I was thinking about that I think is kind of interesting? The sport of bodybuilding, and I think the sport of powerlifting too. Like Phil right now is 39. Kai Green's 44. like a lot of these guys, and like, yeah, Jay Cutler's 46, and then even powerlifters, like you see a lot of like high level powerlifters that are like mid 30s, late 30s, 40s, and still killing it. Whereas like basketball, football, even like non-high contact sports, these guys start reaching their peak around like 34, 35, and then they head out and they dwindle out. Which is why I think it's so cool, because like anybody that, you're in your 30s, I'm not saying you're going to be an Olympia champion, right? But you can still go in and like get stronger, compete, not really get that hurt, and like do pretty well. It's really not too late past your 30s.
Just
like
killed my dreams.
Like you just did your first show a year ago?
Yeah,
right. So like I think a lot of people, especially when looking at this stuff, when they get past the age of 30, they're like, I can't pick up powerlifting, or I can't pick up bodybuilding. But this is stuff you could do well into your 40s.
Dude. Yeah, powerlifting is a sport for the rest of us, as Louis Simmons once put it. He was like, I'm not very coordinated in anything else. This is like, I know how to pick weights up off the ground and squat them and bench press them. He's like, I don't know how to do anything else. Mm-hmm. And it is a great sport because of that reason. Same thing with bodybuilding. Yes, it requires a lot of you. It takes a lot of time to be able to build it up. And there's a skill set to all of it. But really, I haven't come across people that can't do it. I've seen almost everybody I've ever dealt with has the ability to, do like a leg extension or do an overhead press. And there's different people have, range of motion issues, and some people have other issues that may prevent them from doing one thing to the next. But in general, everyone possesses the ability to get stronger. Everybody possesses the ability to have more muscle mass than they did yesterday. So it's a great sport for that reason. You're like you said in football, if you're 30 years old and you're a running back, they're trading your ass. You're on the, you're on the chopping block.
What about strongman? Because I heard Robert O. Burst. He was on Rogan, and he was saying that like strongman, like by the time they're like 34, 36 age, like that's when they're really starting to peak. You think that's about accurate?
Yeah, I think so. And I think kind of you've seen the same thing in strength sports in general, like in powerlifting. I would say maybe where you don't see it as much is maybe in Olympic lifting. And you actually typically now, like keep in mind, I haven't been to a lot of Olympic lifting events, and I know that there's probably masters who are going to be like, no, man, I can still do it. But in general, you don't usually see people getting into the sport older. Like somebody's not 45 and then they get off the couch and they start Olympic lifting, although I'm sure it's happened in the history of the world. But it's rare, and it's usually not a sport where you see people getting really strong later on. And the Olympians and the Olympic athletes are probably between the ages of like 22 and 32, because you have to have like mobility and explosiveness, and otherwise. What about jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, you know what? That's true. Like with jiu-jitsu, there's a guy that gave me hope. His name is Charles Cabrini.
Yeah, because you got into it like at an older age, compared to these guys are doing it from the time they're 3. Right?
Yeah. Charles Cabrini, he actually owns, I think, quite a few schools down in LA. He's won worlds, and this isn't Masters Worlds. I think he's won worlds 3 times, 2 to 3 times. And then he's won Masters Worlds a bunch of times, like past 30. But he started when he was like either 22 or 23. I think he got his black belt in 4 or 5 years or something like that, or 4 to 6 years. And he attacked worlds and he won it. So, and the cool thing is, like, his martial arts experience before wasn't any grappling either. I think he did like maybe some capoeira, which is a Brazilian martial art. I don't know if you've ever seen it before. But there's a lot of like kicking, flowing. If you know Andrew Tekken, Eddie from Tekken.
Of course. That's why I like that character.
Yeah, I like Eddie too.
It's like dancing, like break dancing type.
It's like a dancing type of martial art. But he started when he was in his 20s, and he ended up just killing it. Now he's like super well known as a teacher and as a competitor. So
how old is your instructor?
Casio. I think he's like,
he's probably 30 something.
Nah, he's in his 40s for sure.
Oh, okay.
I hope I'm right, because if I'm not, that sucks. But I think he's in his early 40s, maybe 43, 44.
Yeah,
that's what I'd assume.
And he's still competing at a really high level.
Yeah. He's still competing, because the thing is, like, even when people compete in the Masters, a lot of the guys in the Masters have been either former Masters world champs or former world champs.
Right.
They just like, you can start competing in the Masters after 30. So yeah, he actually went down in a age class, went down in a weight class, and yeah, he smashed. So
Stan Efferding comes to mind when we're thinking about strength sports. You know, he came into Stan has a had a oh wow, yeah, these guys are
it's Capoeira.
a little bit like I mean, you see this there's a bunch of martial arts that are like this. I've seen that's cool. It's kind of like a combination of breakdancing and so do they actually like in competition, do they make contact with each other or not really? No.
I feel, I don't know, but I feel like capoeira is more of an art, like an art of movement, and it's less so like, it's less like, I think it's not
like really intense Tai Chi.
Yeah, more so intense Tai Chi. But there's a big story in terms of how capoeira started, in terms of the Brazilians over there and why they started picking it up. It was more of there was a lot of things going on like socially that made them pick that up. I don't know the exact story, but it's deep. I
could be wrong, but I believe it was because they weren't allowed to learn how to fight.
Yeah.
So instead, they're like, no, we're dancing. Like these are dance moves.
You're right.
And that's why it looks like. I mean, that's why they are right now. Like they're, it's a awesome dance. But that's essentially why like it came to be, is because they weren't allowed to fight, but instead they did this and got away with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right.
You know, I kind of hate seeing stuff like this because I'm like, man, like, just how cool would it be if you learned that in school from the time you're 5, and you just kept doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Because like some of the kicks they're doing with their legs, I mean, these guys are making it all look, beautiful and flawless, and they're moving really, really well. But I'm sure that if you just continued doing it, you could be maybe not on par with what these guys are pulling off, but I'm sure you can move really well. And it's like, man, I feel like we don't value movement enough.
Yeah. No.
It's like, why not? It's like, it's so important. Like that would be, it'd be great to be able to kick your leg like that when you're 70, when you're 60. Those things are really important. I was saying is, Stan Efferding is somebody who got into the sport, much, much later in life. He utilized powerlifting to get bigger. Utilized powerlifting. He had a bunch of friends people telling him, look, man, you're killing yourself with training. You're a smaller guy. You need like more rest. You need to eat more food. And he was like, yeah, whatever. And he just continued to stay, 160, 170, 180, an inch along with his weight gain. He wasn't really getting anywhere. And then he started to try to rest more, but he was like bored. He was like, I don't want to rest in between these sets for longer periods of time. And then he started to find that he liked lifting heavy, and because he was lifting heavy, he recognized, well, you just kind of have to naturally rest in between the sets.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it gets to be difficult to keep pace with the weight that you're trying to lift. And so he started to do that. And so before he ever even got into like being a kind of full-time power lifter, he pulled like 810 pounds or something like that. So he was already very strong. He was already, that was in a competition.
Mm-hmm.
And he was also, at that point, he didn't do a full power meet. He just did a deadlift competition, and he was more of like a bodybuilder. But he was probably around the same age I am right now when he started making like his run, which is crazy because it was like between 43-ish and 47.
Yeah.
Or maybe 46 or so. It was like a 3 or 4 year run, but he was already 40 plus. And he was like, coming in and not just, not just doing well, but breaking all-time world records. I mean, he broke records. It's cool to see now because the records get broken more frequently. But Stan was kind of the guy, like Brandon Curry just mentioned to us, how Jay Cutler made anything seem possible to everybody else. Stan Efferding was that guy because he was the first bodybuilder, and everybody kind of recognized, like, oh, he's not fat. And then there was Dan Green who kind of followed, right? And other people got in shape. I myself was kind of floored by it. Not that I didn't know. I mean, I knew. I just wanted to eat donuts.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I was like, man, he's really strong and he's really lean. Like he's like next level strong. He's way stronger than I am. And I'm bigger and fatter than him. And I can't even come close. So it made me rethink, what I knew about training. But Stan also broke records that were sitting there for a really long time by legends of the sport. There was a guy named John Cuck who had records from 242 all the way up to super heavyweight that no one was touching forever.
Wow.
I mean, these records were just sitting there, and no one messed with them. The guy pulled 900-something pounds. The guy had a 22-ish pound raw total. In like the year I was born, like 1976 or some shit. It was forever ago, and no one ever touched these records. No one even came close to them.
Yeah.
And then powerlifting was like on freeze for a while. Like those raw records were like frozen in time because they didn't have raw powerlifting for a while. Then the geared lifting kind of went through its phases, and then people kind of got sick of that, and then they started bringing in raw powerlifting, and they started to actually have like a category for it.
Wait, so raw powerlifting had a category back in those days?
It didn't.
It didn't.
It didn't. So like what happened was there was lifting, period, right? And then and I should know my history better than this, but like I don't know what year it was. Let's just say it was 1985, right? 1985. A guy named George Zangus made the Z suit, which was the first squat suit. I think the first thing ever made was a bench shirt. But the bench shirt didn't really take off. It didn't really get that popular. It didn't really do that much for you. But George Zangus made this like really gnarly, like canvasy thing that like would kind of rip you up when you wore it, but it would help you squat more weight.
Mm-hmm.
And he's from California, I believe. He would take his squat suits and he would go to powerlifting meets and he would just like hand it out in like the warm-up room.
Wow. And
people would be like, "What's that?" He's like, "Oh, it's a supportive suit." And people were like, "Oh, cool." And they would just throw it on. And so, like, they never worn it before. They never tried it before. You and I are in the warm-up room, and maybe, like, you're like, sure, fuck it, I'll try it. And maybe I'm like, it doesn't really fit me right. I'm not going to mess with it.
Yeah.
I'm going to stick to the way I'm lifting, But, like, I wouldn't cry about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you lifted more on the platform, I'd just be like, oh, shit, that thing worked.
Yeah.
I'm going to use that in the next meet, And so people just started to use it. And I don't think people were so worried about it helping you lift more because people were wrapping their knees and wearing belts, and those things all helped you lift more. So I don't think anybody was really trying to make sense of it in terms of like, oh, well, that should maybe be a different category because it's all new, so nobody knew anything.
Okay.
And then so the record started to kind of shift, and then I don't really know when the split between like raw and single ply and like some of these other things started to come about or started to come to be, but the gear got more sophisticated. In the beginning, the gear was more like a slingshot. Mm-hmm. It was like you and I could both agree and say, it seemed like that was just supportive and it helped me lift, but it's not like giving me hundreds of pounds. So later, John Inzer and some other people got into the game, and they started making supportive gear that was really supportive. And then it kind of came a thing of like, well, that's not fair for you to wear that because I'm only wearing knee wraps, Mm-hmm. But the sport, like I said, it kind of got frozen. There wasn't different categories. There was just powerlifting. Like when I went to powerlifting meets as a kid, there were some people that wore stuff and some people that didn't, but there was no raw category. Mm. There wasn't even a geared category. It was just powerlifting. Like if you were benching against everybody else. And you could be like, I could be in like a teenage category or whatever, but I couldn't be in a specific category that represented like what I was wearing or whatever, represented the gear that I was wearing or not wearing. And it wasn't until around the time Stan kind of started to come around that the category started to be different. And one of the reasons why I, went the route of the Southern Powerlifting Federation out here in California, which doesn't make any sense, was the only federation that allowed for raw, single ply, multi-ply. They just had a lot of different categories, and I thought, well, people should be able to just lift whatever way they want.
Yeah.
Like who cares what they wear? They can. But I wanted people to get credit because in the other federations they weren't recognizing raw, and I was like, well, that's dumb. Mm-hmm. Like if Dan Green comes to one of our meets at Super Training Gym, you're going to tell me that he's going to do a 700-pound squat, and it's just going to have to count against a guy that squatted 800 in a double ply suit? I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. And so, those categories started to get made, and guys like Stan started coming in and kind of showing us all like, hey, man, this can be done differently than we thought.
Yeah.
There's another gear. We're just talking about going to 40%. Mm-hmm. Maybe Brandon Curry doesn't go 40%.
Yeah.
Maybe he goes to 100, or maybe he just learned, 60, 70, 80, 90% over the last 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, I feel like it's like with Brandon Curry, it was all momentum because again, last year he got 5th at Olympia, and I think the last time the year before that he got 8th, and then 6 years before that apparently he got 8th. So that's what's kind of crazy to me because 2011 8th place, nothing until 2017 8th place again, then 5th place, then 1st place. So that's what I'm like. What happened in that large span of time, and how did he just keep going? Because if you get 8th in Olympia and you don't even touch it for another 6 years, it's just wild to think how a competitor can keep that kind of thing going. So that's pretty crazy in and of itself.
But I think that you'll continue to chase things like you'll be in jiu-jitsu for a long time.
Yeah.
And I think like in your head when you not first started, but like when you kind of first told me like, oh, I have this goal to be a black belt in X amount of years, the goal's probably expanded so much beyond that now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, oh, I would love to be able to win worlds. I'd love to be able to win Pan Am. I'd love to, whatever the competitions are. And now it's like, that's not it though.
Mm-hmm.
Like you win those and you're not like, I'm never doing jiu-jitsu again.
No.
hanging up the gi. Maybe
Yeah.
you'll do stuff, you know, without the gi, or maybe you'll move into like learning MMA. Like maybe you don't like fight, but maybe you just want to like learn more fighting stuff. You know,
Yeah.
who knows where it take you, but you'll probably just continue to work towards these things. And if you were to come up short here and there and finish 3rd and finish 2nd and finish 5th and finish 3rd and 2nd, probably keep trucking along and be like, my goal is to be 1st. I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
And every year you do it, and every year you level up to a different belt, it's going to be harder to win, right?
Mm-hmm, definitely. I just do love the sport, and I guess Brandon does too. But you know, the funny thing that I hear a lot from people, and it's from people that are like in their 30s or in their 40s, people are always like, oh, it all goes downhill after you reach age 30. And that doesn't make sense to me. I'm just like, you know, if you stay healthy or if you pick up healthy habits, you do all these things, you shouldn't be feeling like you're 50 years old at 35, right? Right? Like,
right. But so for me, I joke around about that all the time, but it's because for the past 10 years, I've been feeling like that already because my back was so jacked up. But even more so on top of that, it's, you know, my dad or my uncles, you know, that have had terrible habits their whole lives. They've lived that life too. So like where it comes from is like what I've seen. It's like, oh yeah, it's all downhill. Like, you know, I was joking with you, you're 27, like, oh man, it's almost all over.
Yeah.
But we now have the knowledge and the ability to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, like you're feeling much better now than you did 10 years ago, right?
Yeah, I told Mark, like, I think a year and a half ago, I'm like, dude, when I'm 40, I'll be in the best shape of my life.
Yeah.
And that's only because it's just going to take that, like, well, even longer than that, right? Like, I'll just get better and better. Whereas, like, my dad he's already had open heart surgery and stuff, you know, it's like, I know I'm not going that way.
I feel really good. I feel like I can like learn anything, and I feel like I can try anything. I feel like I can do anything, like within reason. Like there's just some things like, you know, like jumping out of a helicopter or something. Like I just really, you know, I really don't care to do that, you know. But I could, and I could learn it, right? And then if I went with somebody who's like, dude, like,
well, I hope you don't.
It really ain't that, you know, it's not bad. It's fairly safe and da-da-da-da-da. You know, like I shot a bunch of crazy guns this past weekend at the Olympia.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
With John Bartolo. And it's not my thing, you know, really it's not. But like after doing it and being, it's just about exposure. So you get exposed to something and you're like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like that's possible. I could do that.
Yeah.
I think, you know, back to this kind of mindset thing, I really think it's a bad route. You know, I really do. I think it's a bad route for people to go, to think like, oh man, you know, it's all like, to joke about it here and there. It's like it's kind of what we do. Nsima's like, you know, comes in, he's all excited and he gets engaged or something. And we, you know, of course we're going to shoot him down, right? Dude, what are you doing? You're like, oh, it's all downhill. We're going to mess with them, you know, but like in general, I don't think the mindset is healthy, and I don't think it's smart. When you ask someone how you doing, man, they're like, oh, I'm hanging in there. You're like, what the? Come on, man! Like, are you being serious? Like, you know, I was like at the airport, and the lady behind the counter is like, how's it going? I said, I'm doing great. And she's like, wow. She's like, I haven't heard that before.
Wow.
And like my daughter was like kind of laughing. And she's like, that was weird because you say that all the time, you know. And that she goes, that lady was so shocked.
Yeah.
She's like, it's normal to feel great, right? I said, I feel great every day. And so that's kind of normal to her because she sees me kind of saying it. Now, like I might get off the couch and be like, yeah, you know, I might get old guy, you know, moans and groans because, you know, a little sore and making all the noises and stuff. But even those noises aren't great. Like, are they really?
Yeah.
Are they necessary? And Nsima talks a lot about, you know, making faces when you're lifting. And I talk to people in here all the time. Don't come in here and make a face like you're smelling farts all day when you do your first set of squats. Like, fucking relax, dude. Like, get yourself warm. Get yourself in a better mindset. Like, that's not a good way. That's not a good representation of how you're going to end up having a great workout that makes you feel good to kind of make these, you know, maybe when you get a lot of weight on there, maybe your face changes a little bit. But in general, it's like, you know, let's send a message to your body like, hey, this is going to be cool. This is something that we want to do, and it's going to be healthy for us.
Sometimes there just really is a lot of farts, though.
Oh, well, yeah, it's super
that's
training.
really bad.
Somebody might have crop dusted the whole place.
Yeah. I had like 85 birthday parties to attend to yesterday.
Oh.
Made it to all of them very late, but of course, always last minute birthday gift shopping. And I just was passing through a bunch of like shirts and stuff with like graphics and all like whatever. And a lot of them were like, ugh, Monday, or like, too tired, don't bother me. I'm just like, don't make these shirts. Like, holy shit, like what? Like, is it really that bad?
Yeah.
Like, and on top of that, do you want to emphasize it by wearing it on your body?
Yeah.
Don't talk to me. I haven't had my first cup of coffee
yet.
Like,
that type of, I'm like, okay. Like, I get it now, right? Like, I guess we're going to just keep going that way. We're not going to try to stop it right here and be like, nope, not wearing that shirt.
That's the thing. Like, these ideas, like, oh, it all goes downhill after 30, which I mean, so many people have told me, or like, it's Monday, you know, another week, all that, like, all these types of ideas have pervaded culture so deeply that people expect to feel that way. They expect to feel like shit on Monday. They expect that after 30, they're going to feel tired and whatever. They expect that after they're married, they're not going to, I don't know, like all that kind of shit that you have after you get married. Like,
you're not going to think the significant other's sexy, or they're not going to have sex anymore, or like any of that kind of shit. And it's like, that ain't how it's working for me.
And when they have these expectations and then all these people that believe this is true around them, it's not surprising that, like, you know, I get emails or DMs from people like, you know, is it too late for me to get started with this fitness thing? I'm 38, blah, blah. Can I not lose weight? Or
like, this is a great time for you to focus on yourself, man. Yeah. This is awesome.
You know, like guys thinking, oh, are my hormones, or do I not have enough testosterone, or is this or that because you're like 35 or something? No.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's no reason to think that way. It's just, but so many people do that it's almost hard to believe that it is possible. So.
And I think, you know, something I've been kind of preaching lately is like, find something that's repeatable, you know, find something that's easy enough and simple enough that it's something that you can manage and do repeatedly, because you have to have like shit to hang on to. You know, we all need like stuff to do. For you, you found jiu-jitsu and you found lifting a long time ago. And these are things that you can easily implement. They still work. You can still have your job, you know, which provides income for you to live the life that you want to live. You have time with your girlfriend. You've worked all these things out, and it's all things that fit into what you're doing. Your diet fits into all this stuff, right? So people just, you know, they really need to kind of be in search of finding stuff. You know, we all want to make things so difficult. But Jeff shared something with me this morning, and it's from Bruce Lee, which I think is amazing. Bruce Lee just had so much great wisdom. But he said, you know, it's just as important to subtract as it is to add, you know. So I talk about do more, be more, which is fantastic. But if you're going to do more, and if you're going to do more, you better subtract stuff out of your life too, because, you know, we're really going to be, you know, we're going to continue to add to our plate and add to our plate. Now we don't have time for other shit, right? So after a while, it won't make any sense, because you'll be driving yourself crazy with, I got to do more. The red light, I got to do that. And I got to go for my 10-minute walk, and I need, you know, and you'll be like really weighing your food, right? And you're just really losing your mind at some point. So you got to be a little cautious with it, and you got to, you know, get certain things out of your life.
Yeah. like, when I started doing jujitsu, it took a little bit for me to be like, okay, do I have to actually lift less if I'm going to be able to do this well? It took a lot to get that in my head, that I may have to do a few less days in the gym if I want to get better at this.
And I think initially you didn't, and then you had to, right?
I had to. I was feeling too tired.
Yeah, just it didn't work.
Yeah.
And then now you're at a place where you feel like, I mean, I saw you deadlifting 625 for some reps the other day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you're at a place where you can still come in, have a great intense workout, and I'm sure when you're going over to jiu-jitsu, that your workouts are intense and they're the way that you want them to feel.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. Yesterday I came in, I did that workout, then I went to jiu-jitsu afterwards, and it was just all rolling. So we had like 14 rolls yesterday, and stay on beat, man. Like I feel beat right now. But yeah, it's just like it's all that little adjustment, and even like fasting, that helps a lot in terms of taking away stress of having to cook all day. So taking out certain things can help a lot.
You going to jiu-jitsu today?
No.
So
there's an open mat tonight,
yeah.
but I don't know if I'm going to go. I don't think so.
Right. So I mean, because you have this mindset though, where you're fairly open, and you're conscious of like I want to be better. If somebody let's say there was a great jiu-jitsu practitioner who's like in the area and they have a clinic, and someone's like, dude, it's not a normal seminar. Like it's a full on like clinic. Like you work your ass off, but you just found out about it when you're leaving here and you got the opportunity to go. You would just go.
Yeah.
You'd be like, well, I was beat, but not anymore.
Yeah.
Like I feel fine now. Like you'll snap out of it, right? Because you have the mindset towards that. Seems like it's in my best interest to go and do that, regardless of. It's the same thing with coming into the gym. Louis Simmons always said, like, I wonder what would happen if I just told everybody we're squatting today and it was on a bench day.
Mm-hmm.
I said, Lou, everyone would just squat, because that's the mindset of the people that are in here. They want to do what they feel is in their best interest, and they feel it's in their best interest to follow your program, to follow what you're saying. So if you told them, if Cassio said, hey, this is what we're doing, we're running 3 miles or 5 miles, you'd all be like, okay.
Yeah.
Like there would be a little snicker, right? And it would last for about, 3 minutes. Maybe a couple guys would grumble or whatever, but he'd be like, no, man, we need to be in better shape. We're all like running. He'd be like, huh? Okay. Just not showing up on Tuesday when we run.
Yeah. I'm curious about this because I've been hearing, like, I heard this quite a bit from a few people this week about coming into super training and training, especially like during the weekends. A lot of people, for some reason, because the gym is free, right, Mark? We don't pay.
The gym's free.
Gym's free.
Nsima pays.
I had to pay a small membership fee, but that's okay. But a lot of people are still somewhat scared to come in and train here, even on the weekends. And I hear a lot, oh, people are too strong in there, or
I'm not strong enough.
I'm not strong enough. I don't get that. I don't understand it. We talk a lot here about how like you should put yourself around people that are stronger than you, and everyone here is super helpful. We see someone lifting, we'll say something or we'll cheer them on. I don't understand it. Why aren't y'all coming?
I just think people need to put out a block, and so when you throw out an excuse, it's a nice way to kind of close your mind off to having to do it. And so you blame something else, or like, oh man, it can't really be free. And then somebody might even like use the excuse of like that they have a different brand of knee sleeves or something. And they might be like, just so they're comfortable with the reason why they're not getting in here and not showing up. Mm-hmm. That's what I would imagine it is. And just also probably nervous, we had some guys in here yesterday. Oh my God, I can't even get into this topic without bringing this up.
Oh man.
We don't have that many African American people here. And so it's always been a running joke for a long time. I'm always like, hey, one in, one out type of thing. I make sure you guys aren't like ganging up on me. And like from a timing perspective, it's just always worked out that way. So Nsima would show up and Bill would be on his way out.
Yeah.
And we always just thought it was funny. But yesterday, Bill is in here benching, right? And Bill always just like comes in and he's like in jeans and like he doesn't warm up and he benches like 405 for reps. We're always like, what are you doing? This guy comes in and he comes in from the back. Normally people come in from the front. he looks exactly like Bill.
I think I saw this guy.
Yeah, he looks exactly like Bill. And I look over at Bill, like my eyes are wide open. He's like, don't say it. He's like, don't say it. And Bill has always been so funny. He, we were all giving each other shit here at Super Training all the time. Bill always just like shakes his head. He's always like, this is a tough crowd. He's like, he's the nicest guy in the world. He's super, super quiet. But anyway, this guy that looked like Bill that came in yesterday, he was saying how scared he's been to come in for a long time. This is a big guy, you know? This guy's big. He's got some muscle mass on him. And I saw him throwing around some weight. He was strong. And he was like, man, I saw you talking about the 10-minute walks, and I saw you talking about diet and nutrition. And he's like, all right, well, if this guy's encouraging me to walk, and he's saying that the gym is free, I should just go check it out. So he was like less intimidated because I was talking about walking rather than like, showing somebody deadlifted 700 pounds. So that he felt like that was a good opportunity to like come in and check the place out. And I was like, you got to come in here every week. What are you doing, man? And he's like, I'll try to start coming in more. So
that's cool.
Hopefully it comes around more.
Yeah.
Still one in, one out.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because like when Terrell was working here, Nsima wasn't co-hosting yet, and then Nsima co-hosts and Terrell's gone. Well, that throws my theory out of the window because like when I think of like training with other really strong dudes, I'm just like, well, shit, like I'm not even half of their strength, so like I'm not even gonna waste their time with like me coming in. But if that guy was big, for him to think that or to be nervous, like that's that's pretty crazy. I think it's just like the presence, right? Like you look at our Instagram, our YouTube, podcast, like it's kind of like it's a thing, it's not just another gym. But even still, like when I went to the gym, I was pretty nervous, but I didn't not go.
The gym?
The gym. It's in
the one in.
It's over there somewhere.
Yeah.
I went and trained with Tony Huge and the crew.
I think sometimes people don't feel they're worth enough. They don't maybe sometimes have enough self-worth to think they're like worthy of like going to do something. But hopefully you can build up enough confidence where you can get over those kinds of things. And that's what I'm saying. Like we all need something to kind of hold on to. You need something, find something that's simple enough. That's something that you can repeat so that you can build some sort of consistency. That'll make you feel good about yourself. And then you'll be able to build upon that. I remember the scene in Rocky, and I just think this is so amazing that like just the way that the movie's written and stuff is just wild. But, Stallone goes in and he talks to Apollo Creed's manager and, or Rocky rather. So Rocky, he sits down and he says to Apollo's manager, he says, hey, just so you know, I'm not going to take any cheap shots or anything like that. And the manager's like, okay. And he's like, why do you say that, Rocky? And he's like, well, I just want you to know I'm going to be a really good training partner. I'm going to be a really good sparring partner for Creed. Like I respect him a lot. And the coach or the trainer's like, the manager rather, he says, no, Rocky, like you have a total misunderstanding of what's happening here. He wants to fight you for the heavyweight championship of the world. And then Rocky still denies that. And he says, no, sir. He says, you don't understand. Like I'm a journeyman boxer. Like that wouldn't make for a good fight. He doesn't feel he's worth enough. Yeah. He doesn't feel he's worthy of it. And he's thinking of it logistically, like I don't even know who the champion is now, like Tyson Fury, right? Like I've done some boxing, right? And if they came to me and said, hey, we think it would be awesome if you fought Tyson Fury, I would say the same thing, right? I'd be like, no, like, first of all, I'm going to get blasted. Like I'm going to get absolutely annihilated. And secondly, nobody really wants to see that. Like that's not going to be very productive for anybody. And so Rocky didn't feel like he had enough worth or didn't feel like he had any value to be able to even have a competition with Apollo Creed. And then obviously he thinks about it more and they end up fighting and the rest is Rocky history. But I think a lot of times people feel that way. They feel like they're not like worth enough to even have the ability to do that. But we don't really view things like that here at Super Training. I've trained with all kinds of people. Sometimes people come in on our like off days and they just happen to be passing by and I'll grab them and say, hey, let's go in the gym. And it hasn't happened that much because I don't have time for it all the time, but I've worked out with random people that just stop by for a few minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I remember when I first started training here, sometimes it's how I definitely felt, because literally there was so many people that were so much stronger than me that it felt a little bit embarrassing almost. But the thing is like everyone was so damn helpful. Everyone was like, really giving me good information on how I could fix things. Like it was just the best place to train. It is the best place to train. So
we'll have to get Brandon Curry out here so he can confirm that.
Oh yeah.
I'll have to get him out here.
Yeah.
To check out super training.
What do you think about what's your thoughts on maybe somebody not wanting to train here because we get a lot of the programming from somebody who's not here?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Jesse Burdick helps with a lot of the programming. Mm-hmm. Our team has done a bunch of different styles of training. Mm-hmm. We've had Matt Wenning help out before. We had, Marcus was helping out when he was here for a while. Silent Mike was helping out when he was here for a while. I think it matters too much if somebody's here or not here. Really, the reason why we even have that in the first place is just so the team has something to follow. They like to kind of train that way. I don't really ever follow anything. I just like work out.
Yeah, and people always DM me like, so what are you guys doing, in the mornings? And blah. I'm like, we do whatever we do.
Yeah.
Like there's no rhyme or reason other than what hurts the least amount.
Yeah, today I just wanted to try to keep moving, and so I did 3 circuits of 3 different things. And so in between my benches, I did some front squats with some dumbbells. I saw Austin Baumgarten doing those the other day, and I was like, that actually looks like a great movement, and I'd love to be able to move better. So it was forcing me into a good position. So I was doing that in between benching, and I was also doing kind of like a Cuban press in between. And then on top of that, I was utilizing like an old method that I haven't used in a long time, but there's kind of this old method where when you do something that's kind of like near a 1 rep max or even a sub-maximal weight, and then you go to do 6 repetitions, you can perform more on the 6 repetitions than you normally would be able to. So let's say
that again.
Yeah, I'm a little lost too.
Yeah, so it's something to basically kind of wake up your central nervous system. Mm-hmm. It helps you to recruit more motor units. That's what strength is really all about. It's your body kind of calling on these motor units to express your highest levels of strength.
Yeah.
And someone like Kaylor Woolham is just able to recruit more motor units, more fibers than most of us in a faster, better, more organized way, and that's how he's able to lift those weights. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he just has some muscle mass on him as well, but we got muscle mass on us too, and we're not able to move those weights that way.
Yeah.
So there's almost like a level of genius to it in some sense. It wouldn't be any different than if we were trying to put together a bunch of different shapes and we had like a literal genius here who was practiced up in that, and we would just be like, oh my God, he did that in 15 seconds and it took us 40 minutes, and just did it over and over again, just kept whooping your ass in it. You're like, oh my God. Strength is a little bit similar to that, but you can kind of tap into some of this stuff and you can kind of like almost in a sense override your system. Like I'm sure you're aware of like PNF stretching. Like there's certain types of stretching that, if we were to stretch your hamstring to a certain degree, like not overstretch it, but get it to a degree that's like a little uncomfortable, and then you pushed into me for like 5 seconds. Once you release, your hamstring will actually release because it's kind of overriding your body's natural response to how tight the hamstring is. Now your body's like, okay, this position's okay now. So similar to strength, where if your best bench is, let's just say 300 pounds. If you come in and you bench, and someone who benches 300 pounds would probably be able to do about 245 or so for about 6 reps. Mm-hmm. If that same person now does 285 for a single, 285 is enough, even like 280 is enough to elicit a response in the body to where you recruited a certain amount of motor units. Your body's like, hey, like this is what we're doing for today.
Yeah.
And it woke you up. You lifted more weight first, and then you went to try a 6 rep max again. And when you went to that 6 rep max, instead of it being 240 or 245, it might be 250 or 255. Mm-hmm. Basically, by lifting heavier, the lighter weights will feel lighter.
Yep.
And they don't have to be like, it doesn't have to be right after. Actually, it's preferred that it's not right after because you want a little bit of space. the nervous system is a weird thing. Like once you start to fuck with it, you get all shaky and crazy. That's why like you drive home sometimes and like your shit is like all woken up, and it doesn't happen, when you're more experienced, but in the beginning it can happen quite a bit. I mean, I remember driving home from workouts and like I'd be like twitching. Like, oh my God.
That same thing happened to me like when I first started jiu-jitsu and I was like super tired. I'd be like shaking while driving home because I'm so beat.
Yeah. It's your nervous system's like, dude, what are we doing? Anyway, by lifting a little heavier first, the 6-rep max is a little easier, or you can handle more weight. And so what we did is we staggered it over the course of 6 sets. So like set number 1, I think I did like 375. And then my 6 reps, I think I did 275. And then I did 385. And then I did 295. And so on. And then I finished my last set. I did 405 first, which actually felt a little easier than I thought it was going to feel. And I had the fat bar too, which kind of throws a wrinkle in there. Mm-hmm. And then I did 315, and I did 315 for 9 reps, and it felt fairly easy. Hmm. But it's just something I just haven't even done or tried in a long time. Those are like staggered sets. They're called all kinds of different things. They're actually originally they're called cluster sets, but cluster sets are something different now. I don't know how that happened, but things change. But it's a fun way to train. It's a fun way to kind of like you're kind of getting a combination of some strength training and some hypertrophy training, and so I love going back to some of that old stuff that I just forgot about. Like I'm like, oh shit, I haven't tried that in a while. I need to get back to that. Yeah, and that's part of the reason why I don't even really like programming. I like to just kind of just do what I want to do, feel good about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I've been really enjoying that type of training too. I don't know, because I've been supersetting stuff, but usually sometimes I'll take a little bit more time. Now I just try to go through each movement and then rest a little bit, even if it's bigger movements. I've been really just enjoying the way I feel.
So you go through 3 movements, and then you might, when you're done with the 3rd movement, you might rest 30 seconds to a minute before you restart the whole thing.
Yeah, again. I mimight rest like a minute to a minute and a half, depending on like how heavy the first thing in the superset was. But yeah, like I don't know. I've been like getting done with my workouts faster, getting through a lot more movements, which is nice. I think I started doing this more or structuring this a little bit better after talking to Brian and seeing some of the stuff that he was doing. Mm-hmm. But you've been doing this type of stuff for like a while, and you're saying you're feeling better. So what made you make the switch to doing this?
It's just, it's a way that I used to train a lot of people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a way I used to work with a lot of people. And, I trained like a lot of like housewives and stuff. And what I found is like I would try to have them strength train, and they would be like, "What's next?" So I'd have them do something, where most of us, we're pretty tired from a good set of 5, but somebody who hasn't built up a lot of strength yet, when they do a set of 5, they're not really all that taxed, even if it feels heavy to them. And so I just kind of, as a trainer who was training people like in person, I was like, well, this doesn't feel like they're getting their money's worth. They're kind of just standing around. I need to figure out other stuff, but I don't want to have them, aimlessly running around. So then I was like, well, maybe we'll kind of like superset stuff. And I tried some of that, and that didn't work great because now they were getting fatigued, like they would do, say, like a bench press and then maybe do like a tricep push down. It's like, well, that involves the same muscles. Mm-hmm. So that can be great for a bodybuilder, and that can be great for hypertrophy, but it's not really what I was really looking for these particular training sessions. Sometimes maybe we'd do that more at the end because I was trying to keep their strength fairly high in the beginning, and then when they were worn out, we could do whatever. But and then I started kind of looking into things more, and I was like, well, what if they did a bench press, and then what if they did like a step up? So they do like a bench press, they do like a step up, and then maybe they do like a curl.
Yeah,
it's like a bicep curl. Isn't going to interfere with the bench. The step up's not going to interfere with anything. And so now it makes sense. And so it's like they go through the 3 things. And a lot of times when I was training people too, they just they don't want to do stuff for that long because they just kind of get bored. So to have them do like 2 or 3 rounds of that, and then we'd move on to something else. It keeps it more entertaining, the more exercise they got to do. So I trained people with that for a long time. And when I was doing that, it was like 20 years ago, mm-hmm. I would train like that pretty often myself just because I like to kind of keep moving. And so now it's something I started to gravitate towards again. Feels good. I really like it a lot.
Yeah, no, that's what I did a lot when I was bodybuilding. I'd superset literally everything. And when I started focusing on powerlifting, it became a lot more single movements, a little bit more sitting around. But like, I mean, I needed to rest between those sets. But now I'm feeling that I can still maintain that level of like working with higher intensity load. Like yesterday, the pause deadlifts was 625. Moving to the next movement wasn't difficult. It wasn't difficult to move towards Pendlay rows. Then after that to push pressing, and then right back to the deadlifts.
What I find interesting about this kind of stuff is that you can gain a lot of strength from this. So like people have some misconceptions about this. They think that because you're doing something else in between, that you're going to be using less weight in your workouts, which is probably true. That part is probably true. But because it's a different training stimulus, you could potentially get stronger. I mean, there might be a point where you might start to exceed your 750-pound pull by, the more, like once you start to learn more about how this feels for you, like there's a huge opportunity that you'll be stronger than you ever been before. Yeah,
because like it's just, even though the loads might be a little bit lighter. So maybe if I was only doing deadlifts and not doing anything else between, maybe I'd be working with 650, 655, right? But if I'm doing all these three, I could still progress this over weeks and months. So maybe, I don't know, next week or the week after that, I'm working with 640. And then for the Pendlays, I'm doing 260 or 270. For the push presses, I'm doing 175. Like it's still progression, but with those three movements, nothing's really that different.
Well, and like also, so like let's say you do like a set of 5. And when you do a set of 5, part of the reason why you do a set of 5 is so that, rep number, well, you're when you're trying to train for strength, you're trying to start to have some sort of form. You're not trying to have a form breakdown, but if you overcome a form breakdown, a lot of time that's where strength will happen. And so you really don't want anything to break down. But when you do 4 or 5 reps or you do multiple sets, a lot of times something will start to break down just a pinch, right? Mm-hmm. And you kind of look at that last rep and be like, man, I wish I would have held it together just a little bit. It's not a total abomination of a lift. It's just a small change, right? Now, with what you're doing now, with this superset, you might be able to get the same effect from 2 reps and from less weight. So less reps and less weight might elicit something similar because so in that set right there, I don't know if you did multiple sets, probably your top set, but like, let's just say that you did 3 sets that were over 585. By the time you get back to that third set of over 585 pounds, you're running into a similar thing that you would run into with maximal loads.
Yeah.
So it's mimicking maximal loads, but it's with a reduced weight. So you should still, in some sense, get a similar response. Now, the response when it comes to top end probably won't be exactly the same because with top end strength, you have to prime the central nervous system a little bit. So in this case, you could do this for a few weeks and you can get stronger. And then at some point, you would have to probably overload a little bit. But it wouldn't mean that you'd have to handle 750 necessarily.
No.
It would just mean that you would have to just change the training up slightly, and you'd probably get a huge bang from it.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's a good explanation of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes we just think that there's only one way to get stronger, and even when you're doing like sets of 10, it's like set 8, 9, and 10 isn't the same as doing a like 2 or 3 rep max where the form starts to break down, but it's similar. And it can be similar enough. And if you can plow through that for the course of 4 sets, that's part of the reason why people start their training there when they're prepping for a powerlifting meet, is that they are trying to build a really strong foundation that they can pile more stuff on top of.
Yeah.
So they'll bring up a ton of volume. They'll do a lot of sets, a lot of reps with good amounts of weight. And then as the competition comes closer, they'll probably reduce the volume a little bit over a period of time, but they set their body through these positions over and over and over again. Now, you can't go through those positions multiple times with heavier weights. It's not wise. It's not smart. So if you did 5 sets of 5 and you're rounded over on set number 1 on rep number 3,
screwed.
You're in a bad spot and you should probably reduce the weight. If you're doing 4 sets of 10 and you round it over a little bit on set number 1 of rep number 7, that's not such a bad spot to be. The weight is reduced enough. You should be okay. You should always be trying to get the best possible form that you can.
Mm-hmm.
But we also know that if you're trying to lift perfectly all the time, that's not going to be enough weight usually to help get you stronger.
Yeah.
You know, I'd love to see it to be immaculate, but it's like not realistic. There's going to be, and again, I'm not talking about knees caving in and back rounding. I'm talking about just where you're like, oh, that could be a little better. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. You know, what I'm really digging to is that, like, I know like a few years back, I would have thought that there's certain ideal way. Well, that there's like best ways to train in terms of strength or best ways to train in terms of muscle gain. And this isn't such a smart idea. There's really no reason to go like this. But like now, because of like all of the influences from a lot of people we've been talking to, it just makes me a little bit open to try things or try different ways of training that I would have thought in the past were not really that smart. And they're actually working out pretty well. Like a few years ago, I wouldn't have done something like this because I would have been like, there's too much fatigue building up between movement to movement. You're not going to be able to move maximal load that way. You know, like I would have done some shit like that. So I just really like how I'm just more open to all of these different aspects and just trying these things out and seeing how they work. There's an infinite amount of ways to train. And I think one of the biggest things is like, you want to train and make progress, but you also really want to enjoy what you're doing. You don't want to just do something because X says it's the best way, but when you do it, you hate it, but it's, you know, this person said it's the best way to do this. So
you're not going to be lean from lifting heavy, you know. It's like, well, that's not really true.
Yeah.
Is it okay to just hate a certain type of I don't know, like I hate doing burpees. Like, is it okay that I hate them, or am I just being a bitch?
It's okay that you hate them. You can still do them and not like them. Like, there's a lot of movements in the gym that like you may not be inherently good at, maybe because you haven't had enough practice, or maybe because like, I don't know, you just don't do it as frequently, or burpees are tiring. I honestly, I'd say that most people, including CrossFitters, just don't like the burpees, but they do them, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's normal.
Yeah, that's a perfect answer, because I was just bringing that up because, like, there's people that are, you know, maybe, like, you know, like we say, they're nervous to come to super training, but there's people that are just nervous to go train, period, because they hear about, like, oh, this guy says, like, he's too anxious if he doesn't go to the gym. He loves going to the gym. He's not the same. But then they go and they're just like, man, that sucked. I'm all sore and, like, I hated that.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you know, okay, you're not going to necessarily love it all the time.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, and you know, there has, like, if there's a reason why you hate it, you know, you get hurt. Seems like you get hurt every time you do it. Then maybe it isn't something that you continue to do. I know some people don't like leg press. And I saw you shooting a video on a leg press the other day saying, you know, be a little careful that your back doesn't come off the pad, because a lot of times your back is rounding. That's where people hurt their back. And again, you know, this is all relative to, you know, your body, and then also the type of weights that you put on there. So if you had a plate on there and your back was coming off the pad a little bit, might not be too bad of a foul, you know. But if you got 5 plates on there, it's probably not a great idea. I know Mike O'Hearn likes to sometimes, you know, go for range of motion with certain movements. And it's like, well, look at when, first of all, you know, he's a pro and he's been doing it for a long time. But look at the weight that he'll suggest to other people in the group. You know what it was like to train with him. And he reduced the weight a lot for us. And we're like, it sucks, you know. But it's just, that's because this is where we're at. And he's been doing these movements for a long time. He's very familiar with them. And for most people, that's a great idea, is like, let's reduce the weight. Let's make sure we're doing the lift the right way. But if you do find stuff that you really, truly hate and you're like, I don't dig that, like that doesn't keep me motivated, I don't think it's helpful or useful to me, then there's a lot of options in the gym.
You know, it's really
Maybe
true.
just don't do it.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Like, you know, I hear, or not even I hear, a lot of like people ask me because, you know, they see that power through squat, bench, and deadlift, and like guys are like, can I still get a big big chest if I don't bench press? Do I have to bench press? I really don't like that. You know, you can still do a lot of dumbbell work or machine work and get a big chest even if you don't have a big bench. And like, I mean, we love squatting and we love deadlifting, but you don't have to do squats for big legs, although squatting is just a great movement. But you could do leg press, leg extensions, lunges. There's infinite amount of things that you could do that you might enjoy more than a certain movement. And the reason why I was laughing at Andrew when he mentioned Rob Oberst from Joe Rogan is because remember when Rob was like, most people shouldn't deadlift, and the whole strength community was like, no, everyone should deadlift.
Yeah, he's like, I know everyone's gonna hate that I say this, but yeah, deadlifting, nobody needs to be deadlifting.
So,
and I was like, like that goes literally against what everybody says.
So many people were making videos responding
to
really? That. Yeah, like
I missed that.
Hella people made videos like saying, oh, no, you should be deadlifting in some sort of fashion and posts about it. But like, you don't, like, yeah, deadlift's great. I really like it. There's a lot of ways to deadlift without hurting your back. But I mean, he does kind of have a point, but there's a lot of safe ways to deadlift, like Casio, for example, prefers doing heavy kettlebell sumo deadlifts rather than reaching down to the bar and grabbing, and doing deadlifts that way. So there's just so many infinite ways to find something that you enjoy to do in here.
Yeah, we did elevated trap bar deadlifts yesterday.
Yeah.
And it's been a while since I've gotten inside that damn trap bar. It's a trap, but felt so good. Yeah. Like I did 275 and it wasn't like a stroke. Like, I mean, it was tough, but it wasn't like it used to be before with like a straight bar.
Way different feel.
Yeah, it feels good.
Well, the straight bar ends up
the weight in your hands like that. You just feel it just feels great.
Yeah, the straight bar ends up like kind of out in front of you,
right?
And it's like, man, you get on your toes or you shift forward a little bit, and like, man, everything really just dumps into your lower back, and you're like, oh my god, I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I mean, there's many different ways of doing things, and I think to Robert's point, I actually just think that it's always good to just be cautious of any of the major lifts, because we're just trying to always add weight to it.
Yep.
We're just always trying to add weight and add weight and add weight, and like you were doing a good amount of weight on the deadlift. You were handling some decent weight on the Pendlay row. But the weight that you were handling in the overhead press was almost just to overhead press.
Yeah.
Almost just to have a third movement. Like it wasn't. So the point is like the weights don't always have to kill you. You don't have to have a ton of weight on there. But just be careful that you're not chasing stuff that's not there. You're not going to ever get it anyway. If you're chasing stuff that you have to really, truly force. Like I do agree with C.T. Fletcher. You can kind of force your muscles to grow. But don't force strength when it's not there. If it doesn't feel right, don't, you've been deadlifting for a few weeks in a row and your back's starting to feel a little bit weird. Pay attention to that. Like it's not going to feel better when you add more weight. It's going to feel a lot worse usually. So I think that's kind of the main thing from Robert Oberst. I mean, he's a pro strongman, and him and all his buddies deadlift, 800, 900,000 pounds. They deadlift huge weights. And I think that's kind of what he's talking about. But even for the person that's trying to deadlift 315 for the first time, just don't force stuff. If you're feeling good and you're having great workouts and you're working out with 185 and 225, that's great. Stay with that. Like, are we really going to notice a crazy, profound difference in your physique from you starting to use 275? You know what I mean? Like, probably not.
Yeah.
Like if you're getting a nice workout with these other weights and everything's feeling good and you feel strong every day, does it really matter for you to go into a weight that probably doesn't belong in your hands at the moment?
No. Yeah. No. Just like when we were working out with Mike and he made us like lower that load to something laughable. Same exact idea. What were you about to say?
No, I was just saying I like how Oberst gave Brian Shaw tons of props. He's like he's the best strongman that ever lived. Like, oh, that's cool.
Oh yeah. He was laying it on thick. Yeah. Brian Shaw is the man.
Yeah, you saw him. How's he doing?
He's still gigantic.
That's good.
He's still absolutely massive. I think he just he's having fun. It seemed like all those guys had a lot of fun doing that show. I ran into Nick Best as well. He was kind of hanging around, and it seemed like they got a lot of publicity from the show, and they're all super excited and hyped up. But now it's back down to business. You got to try to win another World's Strongest Man. And so people are hungry for that title. The title shifted around a little bit. And I'm sure Hapthor is hungry to, get back on top again, just as Brian is. And so it'll continue to be a dogfight. But it just gets harder and harder for all of them because they're all becoming more popular as well. So there's more shit thrown at them all the time. And you know, it'd be great if they could just focus in on strongman, but they can't. They got other shit going on.
Yeah, that is the pretty crazy thing that, like, I mean, it's social media has been like apparent for the past 5, 6, 7 years, but a lot of the athletes that are at the top of these sports are now also getting a ton of recognition from the whole community and more financial, you know, opportunities too. So it's like, you know, like now, I mean, you can't really compare it to like, you know, I guess top NBA players or anything because they're still competitors, but I guess they're going to have to balance out massive amounts of fame with also being a high level competitor.
It might be even a little bit harder
really
than a professional sport because, and not that pro strongman is not a professional sport. It is, but here's why is like all these guys and girls that are making money off of Instagram for lifting big weights could stop competing tomorrow and probably make the same amount of money or more.
Larry Wheels is a prime example.
When is the last time Larry Wheels competed in a powerlifting meet?
You're right.
You know, like it's been a while, you know, and so he doesn't ever have to powerlift again if he doesn't feel it. I mean, I think it's great that he proved himself in powerlifting, and it's good that he has that that background. Because some people might say, "Oh, it's it's BS." He's because he's unbelievable, right? So that's what people would probably think. They'd probably think, "It's got to be, no one can bench 500 for whatever it was, 19 reps or something." He did. I don't even know. I don't know what's going on with that guy. But it's just it's unbelievable. And I think Eddie Hall's a pretty good example too. He's not like retired, like he still competes in some strongman stuff here and there. And I don't know his financial business or anything, but it seems like he's doing great, and it seems like a lot of these other strongmen are doing really well. They can travel, they can have fun with their families and do lots of fun and cool things. And so it's an interesting time because they could just kind of, hang it up and turn towards something else and not really ever, reach the excellence that they want in that sport. They could actually afford to be distracted, I guess is my point.
Yeah.
And make more money from it. Where if you're a pro athlete, it's not going to work out the same for you because it would be harder to switch. Some pro athletes do have huge social media followings, so maybe they could do the same. I don't know.
Yeah, no, especially like when you think of, I guess, the way lifting is portrayed. Like if you were to stop playing football, well, you're not going to play football on Instagram. Like,
yeah, right. And yeah. Well, and also you're not going to make like JJ Watt money from being an Well, for some people might be able to, but in general, you're not going to really see that come across the table.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
You have to become like a Twitch streamer playing Madden, like yourself.
Someone actually do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Like Mighty Mouse plays a lot on Twitch. He's like super successful on that.
He's really good. I think he like plays fighting games and he's really good at them.
Yeah.
Anything else notable happen at the Olympia?
I had a good time. Got to hang out with some of my peeps from Quest. Unfortunately, I didn't get to run into Ron Penna. He had to come in later, so I didn't get an opportunity to run into him. But we'll see him soon enough. Anyway, got to hang out with our boy Bruce Cardenas of Quest Nutrition, and that was a lot of fun, and got to meet some cool people. And I got to run into Mike O'Tren. You guys know that guy. There he is, Mr. Mike, and his wifey Pooh there, Mona, and they're doing great. And they were kind of sad because they haven't been home in a little bit. They've been traveling and they haven't been home to baby Titan in a little while. So they were like, "Oh man, you could kind of see it on both of them too. They were kind of like, they didn't seem tired. They seemed like they were like stressed out. And they're like, "Yeah, we just want to get back home to our baby." And I was like, "Yep, I know that feeling." So it was good seeing them. And then Brian he's always happy. He's just an absolute giant. I thought he was going to punch me in the head, knock my head off my shoulders. And I ran into a guy named Nick Wright. You guys know Nick Wright?
Of course we know Nick Wright.
Yep, ran into Nick Wright, got to shoot a bunch of guns. Ran into Brooke Entz, who surprised me big time by telling me that she was trying to fight off swamp ass. I didn't know someone like Brooke Entz would have swamp ass, but she was wearing gray pants. And she's like, "These pants are iffy at best," and I wasn't expecting it.
At an expo that's so breathy.
Yeah, she's like, "I wasn't expecting it to be this hot inside." She's like, "I know it's Vegas and it's hot outside." And I said, "Well, look, if you want to talk about this, I'm open because I know a lot about swamp bass. Like if anybody's got swamp bass down, it's me. And so, might be able to, just help you just relieve the pressure of all that, She was awesome. She's always good to see her. And it's, it's just cool, like, getting opportunities to run into different people. Yeah, we ran into Lisa Vanderpump, who's on, what is it, Real Housewives show.
Oh, wow.
Her and her husband have a bunch of restaurants, and they have a restaurant in the hotel that we were at. And she was actually there. Like, what was cool is, she's multi-millionaire, and there she is, like, she's actually physically setting up this display that's in her bar, and she had people helping her and stuff, but like she's the one like folding these shirts and like setting all this stuff up. And
That's
I thought,
cool.
Yeah, I thought it was cool because it's like she could easily be off somewhere else and pay somebody for that, but she's like very hands on. And then she just walked by our table, and I said, "Oh, my wife's a huge fan of your show," and she said, "You're not?" And I said, "I am." I am too. And anyway, she just kind of like took a few minutes with us. She signed a bottle of wine for us, and it was cool. It was fun.
That's dope.
And then Quest Nutrition, I kept stealing pizza from them. I was so fat.
They're so good, though.
I was super hungry, so I kept stealing pizza from them. And they're giving out these like little slivers. And I told the woman there, I was like, I need a full one to go. I'm like, I'm dying over here.
Yeah.
And she's like, I can't. She's like, I can't do it. She's like, we're running low, and like the customers aren't going to get any. And like there was a guy there. He's like, fuck the customers. He's like, get him a pizza.
That's great.
And they gave me that pizza on my way out the door.
I kind of messed up Ryan Spencer. We were talking. We were training. This was I think Friday, maybe Thursday or Friday. And I was like, dude, because I was asking him like, hey, like, what's your diet like? And he's like, oh, everyone assumes that I'm just like super strict because I'm so disciplined with the gym. He's like, but I have pizza every Friday. And I'm like, you have to try Quest Nutrition's frozen pizza then. And so he's like, what? Like, is it good? I'm like, dude, it tastes amazing. And he gets quiet. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to go to the store right now and get it. I'm like, dude, you're going to love it.
They're always sold out at Target.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing. They now sell it at Walmart. And wow.
They sell different flavors at Walmart too?
They only have pepperoni and then plain cheese right now. So hopefully,
and you know this, of course,
because I buy out all of them as soon as I see it.
The pepperoni is so much better than just the cheese. Although the cheese is good, and then that damn spinach one, I haven't had it since. I'm dying.
I've never liked any pizza without like the red sauce. I've never liked it with the white sauce. It's just not my thing. That one is, dude. That one's really good.
Y'all, brother's fasting right now, so
well.
Chill. Let's relax.
Can everybody just ease up just a little bit on some of this?
I'm playing.
You're good. But yeah, so I told him about it. I'm like, yeah, pepperoni's probably the best one. That's the one that's available. Like the combination one's okay. Still good, but that pepperoni's the best one. And if you can get the spinach, yeah.
Hell yeah. I think in a future podcast we should talk about this topic a little bit more, about convenient foods that you can get a hold of while still, maintaining your like diet integrity. Because I went to Five Guys yesterday on the way home, and maybe the day before that or 2 days before that, I stopped at In-N-Out, and I've been doing some taste tests over here.
Which one's better?
Well, Five Guys is better in my opinion when it comes to just eating the meat. And also I will say, so In-N-Out Burger is by far a far better operation. Like they get your shit a lot faster. Five Guys, they don't know what's going on. They're super confused when you try to order it without the bun. They don't know what's they're all confused back there. And and I had that happen more than once there. So it's not just one time that it's happened. But the In-N-Out Burger, in my opinion, is too salty. And it's probably a way different experience with a bun. It's probably fine. It's probably fine with the bun. But without the bun, it wasn't as good as Five Guys, I think.
Yeah, I think they take into account like the In-N-Out spread and probably ketchup as well. So that's why they salt it up.
Right.
But, for me, obviously it's In-N-Out. But Chris Bell was like, if you're doing true carnivore, it's got to be Five Guys. And I'm like, okay, with that argument, Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Yeah. I still think the bun's great too. Bun's better than In-N-Out, but
But I would say Habit's better than Five Guys.
My brother actually, he's also said that, and I haven't had this, I don't think. No, I haven't had it. He also said that Wendy's is better than all of them. Oh! He said a burger, just a cheeseburger from Wendy's is rocking.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say it goes for me.
It's always consistent, and it always tastes good.
It's In-N-Out, Habit Burger, and then a tie between everyone else, which would be Wendy's and Five Guys and whoever else you want to throw in there.
You shut your dirty mouth. Now, Wendy's is the only place that's made me constipated on a consistent basis. I don't go there much anymore, like ever, because like every time I have a Wendy's like burger, the next day I can't poop for a while. I usually have my morning poop.
Dude, Wendy's, what are you doing to my boy over here?
Well, maybe because you're utilizing all of the nutrients that Wendy's has. Like maybe it's a better delivery system than everyone else.
It's all just getting stopped up in there.
Yeah. I cannot wait for us to talk about this.
But I do think we should talk about like convenient things that we do to like stay on our diet, things that are maybe gray area that we still feel are okay enough to, I guess, maintain the physiques that we want to have, or at least head us in the right direction.
For.
And then we could talk about total destruction too, like what we do when we go, when we go all in for it, extreme annihilation.
That sounds like fun.
But yeah, I think I should go to Five Guys now. Now that we got this going.
God, I'm so hungry now.
Yeah, I'll end up. I think I thawed out some Piedmontese beef.
So just so people know, you could go to and the convenience of In-N-Out Burger and being able to communicate with them and to say you want a Flying Dutchman is great.
Yeah,
because that's just you getting the patties without the bun and there's nothing else on it. That helps a lot. But I think a lot of people don't even know that. Like a lot of people don't even realize that sometimes. I know people try to confuse everybody with a ketogenic diet and say, it's more than just like not eating the bun, but literally, that's a great change to start making. Now, if you're not eating the bun and you're still eating a lot of carbohydrates and you're eating a lot of fat and carbohydrates, it's like what you're doing is not really probably making a lot of sense. But if you're looking to cut back on carbohydrates and start to really make some big changes, you can go to fast food every day and still make a lot of progress. I actually, a lot of times with my diet, when I was doing keto years ago, and I still do this now because we're back in football season, every Monday I cook up some wings and I get those wings going. And I actually did for a week straight just to kind of test it out. I did wings for 7 days and I lost like 8 pounds. And I'm not saying that wings help me lose weight. I'm just saying that wings, they fit into a ketogenic diet. So
when did you do this? How recent was this?
It was probably 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah.
Wow.
Wing diet.
That makes sense. I mean, it's chicken wings. You probably weren't making them. They weren't like, you didn't have a bunch of cheese and a bunch of crazy stuff with it, right?
No. I mean, it's just like
just wings.
Yeah, it's just well, so even when you get wings from like Wingstop, now they're fried, right, which isn't great, but it's just butter and hot sauce.
Yeah,
there's no carbohydrates in it. Even when you dip them in ranch, there's still no carbohydrates in it.
True.
Now it's gonna start to have a huge amount of calories. Each wing is probably like 150 calories or something, or maybe more. I don't know. And they're pretty small, right? But I make them at home now just to try to try to have it be a little safer, a little less, shitty for me. And I throw them in the oven and I throw some like coconut oil down just to kind of keep them from sticking to anything. And then I cook up some butter and some Red Hot. Oh, and a little secret is to get unsalted butter, because there's already so much salt and sodium in the Red Hot sauce that it just ends up being like it's too salty. So I get unsalted butter, and I throw some coconut oil in there as well, and it's just all kind of like mixes up. Dump that shit right on the wings, or actually I throw the wings in the pot with them, and they cook in there for a little while, and then I eat the wings. And I did that last week, and it was amazing.
Man, you should make a carnivore cookbook.
Oh my God, the cookbook.
Yeah, you should make, That'd be clutch. now I'm hungry shit. Now I want wings. Like,
I think we should go, dude. Why don't we go?
Everyone listening to this right now, like on a drive or in the backyard, is listening. Like, fuck you guys.
We had advertisers on the
4
podcast.
hours into their fast.
We had advertisers on the podcast. Now we could afford it now.
Oh yes, we can making those big bucks.
Yeah.
We should talk about our advertisers before we drop off here. We got our boys over at Piedmontese because we've been talking a lot about meat and the carnivore diet. And the huge advantage of getting Piedmontese is the fact that the meats are super lean. They're maybe like a lot. Well, they're not maybe. They are leaner than a lot of the other meats that you're going to see on the market. Even when you have a ribeye from them, I'm not sure how they do it or how it works, but sometimes a typical ribeye might have 20 grams of fat. You'll notice that theirs has like 15.
It's 10.
10, yeah.
10 per serving. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, which is pretty insane. On top of that, it still tastes really good. It's still very tender. It's still very soft. I think that most of the time when you're thinking about meat being really lean, you're starting to think about it being really chewy. But this is still tender and still moist and still delicious.
Yeah, I had shot a whole like how to make stir fry video. We put it up on the Power Project Instagram. Got a pretty good response, man. It was really good though. Yeah, like I said the stir fry beef from Piedmontese is DTF right out of the package because it's all pre-cut. It's like it's super convenient. But what was awesome is after I got back from the gym yesterday, it's like, oh my gosh, what's this big old box from Piedmontese? I didn't have to deal with going to the store. I didn't have to deal with like picking out like oh, what's a good cut of meat, like what's on sale, or like what's it was all there for me. And I'm excited. I'm probably just gonna make some ground beef today to make some monster mash with it. Yeah. But like I'm so excited to cook.
I got a roast that I threw in my crock pot. It's called like something standing roast. It was gigantic, and we threw it in a crock pot, and it was just like it's absolutely ridiculous. It had bones in it, but when I woke up the next morning, the bones were like just like sitting in the pot because all the meat fell off the bones.
Wow. I have the tomahawk. I need to figure out how I'm going to cook it because I have one of those tomahawks now, and I don't know if I'm going to cook it in the oven or what. Because that thing's not fitting in my basic air fryer. So
the oven would work pretty good.
Yeah. I'll cook it in the oven, but I can't wait to go into
that. Do you have a
cast iron?
Do you have a cast iron?
I do have a cast iron. I haven't used it in a while.
So you could sear it in a cast iron. Yeah.
So you sear it first and then you put it in the oven to cook.
Ooh.
Yeah. I'm throwing that bitch on the smoker.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna do that. But
how do people get hooked up, Andrew?
Yeah, so you guys can head over to Certified Piedmontese. That's Piedmontese.com, Piedmontese.com. And, I joked around when we were doing some of these ads before, like it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like they're giving you guys 25% off your order. I don't know how they're making money by giving away that much.
Yeah.
That's a whole quarter if my math is correct.
It is.
You enter promo code Power Project at checkout. That'll give you the 25% off and free 2-day shipping on orders of $99 and above.
Also, thanks to our boys over at Perfect Keto. I have a Perfect Keto bar almost every night because I'm a fat guy. I got a sweet tooth, and those cinnamon roll bars are delicious. And then I've been utilizing some of their other products. They have an MCT powder. They have a vanilla. They have a chocolate. Those mix up really great in coffee. I'll sometimes throw them in my protein shakes. I'm somebody that's a huge fan of protein shakes still to this day, and I have 1 or 2 every day, so I'm utilizing the MCT powder quite a bit. And then I've been messing around with their exogenous ketones as well. Some of the flavor profile of those can be a little harsh, and it's not an easy supplement to take. But they also make it in capsules for those of you that don't want to deal with the taste. And then they also made one that I've been mixing in my coffee from time to time, and I found that to be palatable and give me a good supply of ketones.
Yeah, I had that this morning. It was the little coffee packets. I put that in my coffee. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
But so far, my favorite product is the collagen ketone protein or whatever. Salted caramel. Okay, so obviously the first day I had that shit was good, and it was only with water. But I had it again last night with milk. Ooh, and that stuff was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can mix something like that in like yogurt or something. I mean, it's like, I don't know. It just gives you so many options. It gets you excited because now your whole your whole game is opened up because you got a bigger playbook now, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, obviously it's like, oh, well, they're the sponsor. You got to talk nice about them and whatnot, blah, blah, blah. But dude, that collagen protein is really good.
It's really good.
I didn't know what to expect. I've never had collagen protein before, let alone something that's more like keto
Andrew
friendly.
told me he was super nervous.
Yeah. And then Mark was like, you get nervous a lot. Like, yes, I do.
Yeah, I'm surprised though that
walk right over it. Yeah, you do.
No, I'm surprised though that the collagen protein, because I've had collagen supplements before, and when you put them in like water or whatever, they taste crappy, but they're also kind of dusty.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. They don't.
Yeah,
they're
they don't
dusty.
break down.
They don't break down. So you don't. There's none of that residue when you get this collagen protein. There's no residue. It just mixes really well with water or anything else. It's awesome.
I have a Ninja blender, but you can also get like there's kind of those fusion things or kind of handheld little deals. You got to be careful. Yeah, you got to be careful that it doesn't like go all over the place. But most of this stuff mixes up a lot better, like in a blender and when you have like ice and stuff. But it's convenient that it mixes up just as easily in a shaker cup, which is really nice.
Yeah. But so they're hooking you guys up also. If you guys head over to perfectketo.com/powerproject and enter promo code powerproject at checkout, you can get 15% off everything on the site. And like I said, dude, don't miss out on that collagen protein because that's now a daily staple for me. Like that's how good it is.
Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch y'all later.